Good morning, friends. Today we are going to learn about Windows Server 2012 overview. These are some objectives we are going to learn. What we are going to do in this lessons. First of all, we will would like to highlight the Microsoft history, then Windows Server 2012 overview. Then later on, what are the new features in Server 2012, and what is the difference between the old server and new server 2008 and 2012, and how many editions are there in server 2012, and what are the installation requirements, what is the minimum and maximum hardware support. So after this lesson you will be able to understand those options. First of all, like to look here, Windows Server 2000, Windows NT released in 1993, then Windows Server 2000 launched in 2000, and then Server 2003 launched in April 2003. Then later on, Windows Server 2003 R2 in December 2005. Then Windows Server 2008 released in February 2008. Then Windows Server 2008 R2 released in July 2009, and Windows Server 2012 released in September 2012. Every time when Microsoft launched new operating system, he come out with some new features, some new options, some new graphics. So mostly the names has been mentioned here with the name of the year he release, like February 2000, so name is 2000 server. April 2003, and here Windows Server 2003. February 2008, and here Windows Server 2008. Server 2012 released in September 2012. So most probably the next coming server, as Microsoft release after 4 years, so it should be server 2016 or 17. So Windows Server 2012 and Windows 8, they both have new Metro look. The Metro looks here, if you press the Windows key, you will find here you can manage the things accordingly. You can manage your icons, you can manage your drive accordingly. You can increase the size, decrease the size, resize. You want to see it as small. So you have a new Metro look. Accordingly, you can make it like resize. I want my emails to be small, very small. So here I can adjust it. So this is a Metro look. Now these are some new features has been introduced or improvement has been done, like we are already using Active Directory and IIS or other things, but improvement has been done, like storage improvements, HyperV improvements. So first of all, we'll try to understand those things, what is HyperV, what is storage, what is dynamic access control. Then later on we will be able to explain you the new features or improvements. Like HyperV is there, this HyperV improvement has been done. HyperV is a virtualization technology used for the server consolidation. Server consolidation means you do not need to use 3 or 4 servers. Actually, you can install all the servers on a single machine to use all the CPU usage, or use the entire 90 to 95% CPU. So that is there, and new feature is there, like Windows 8. If you open the task manager, so you can see your Adobe Reader is using that much CPU and that much memory, your Google Chrome is using. So by application you can check that CPU is utilized by which of the applications, CPU, memory, Ethernet. So that is a very graphical now, as comparison to the server 2008 or older window. You have a best feature here in the task manager. Let us compare Windows Server 2008 and Server 2012. Server 2008, in the PowerShell having only 300 commandlets, but in Server 2012 we have a PowerShell have 2500 commandlets. The biggest difference here is support 256 logical processor and 2 terabyte of memory, but Server 2012 supports 640 logical processor and 4 terabyte of memory. So that is again here, and some improvement has been done this side for read only or other stuff here. So we'll give a look later on. Windows Server 2012 having the 4 editions. Generally the last also have the 4 Server 2008. So we'll discuss this first. The first edition here is Windows Server 2012 Foundation Edition. Foundation means a very started edition for the Windows Server 2012. And then we have the Standard Edition, and then next is the Datacenter Edition, and the last one is Essential Edition. So we will try to understand where we can use these editions. So give a look on this. In Datacenter Edition is mostly used for a large scale organization, and it can use up to 64 processor, and the only support it gives us, that is fault tolerance. Fault tolerance means RAID or other things you can configure or manage on this Windows Server 2010 12. In this one, this is one of the best editions in this Server 2010 12. The next is Server 2012 Standard Edition. It is a complete edition, but it have a very limited license in the virtual machine as comparison to the data center editions, and used for a small scale organizations also as comparison to data center. It will not give you the fault tolerance, and you have to get the license of the virtual machine in standard edition, but data center you do not need to get license for the virtual machine that you have installed. Windows Server 2012 Essential Edition. Essential Edition is have all the features that data center and standard have, but the only feature it do not have, that is server core, Hyper-V or Active Directory Federation services. So Essential is okay, but it do not have a virtualization concept or a command line concept or Active Directory Federation services. These are the very important for a company if you are working for a large scale organization, if you want security or if you want virtualization. So Windows Server 2012 Foundation Edition, the last one, it reduced version of the operating system designed for small business that require only basic server features such as file and print services and application support. Suppose such a company you are working, you need just only few basic things, like you do not need Active Directory, Hyper-V or virtualizations or fault redundancy. So you can go for the Foundation editions. Here you can give a look here. These are the addition and these are the comparison. If you go for this processor of data center, support 640 virtual. I am talking about virtual. No. Hyper-V support, data center support Hyper-V, standard also support Hyper-V, whether Foundation and Essential do not support Hyper-V. Active Directory supported by data center, standard edition, Foundation also and Essential also. Certificate services, yes, supported by all. Federation services is supported by 3 of them. Essential do not support federation services. Server core is supported by data center and standard edition. User limit is unlimited for standard and data center, whereas Foundation have, it's a big difference. Foundation have only 25 user support and Essential have only 15 user limit. File services, unlimited DFS route, unlimited DFS. One DFS route is there, only one, because Foundation and these two have only one distributed file system. So you will give a look here. The standard and this almost they both have same features. The only difference between those is it give a support, data center give a support for the fault tolerance, and these are the hardware installation requirement. DVD drive is required or a pen drive is required. If you want to install through network card is required. Processor 1.4 gigahertz minimum required and 64. We do not have a 32-bit available. Internet access is required if you want to update your server, otherwise it is not required. Keyboard or mouse is required, and graphics required, that is 1024 by 768 or higher. And minimum hard disk required, that is a 32 GB, and minimum RAM required is a 512 MB of RAM. Fine. So that is the same here. Installation requirements, these are the minimum requirement. Processor 64-bit 1.4 gigahertz, RAM 512 MB, hard disk 32 GB. Maximum is you can use 64 processor, logical processor you can use 640, and RAM you can use 4 terabyte of RAM. So those topics we have discussed today. Thank you very much for this session.